You just met someone, had a real conversation, genuinely liked them, and 30 minutes later, gone. Not their face, not the thing they told you about their dog or their job or their weekend, just the name. Completely gone, like it was never said out loud. And if this happens to you regularly, I'm willing to bet you have spent years feeling quietly embarrassed about it, apologizing in your head before you even have to ask again, watching other people effortlessly recall names of parties and wondering what is actually wrong with you. Here's the thing though, nothing is wrong with you. And I do not mean that in the vague, feel-good way people say it to make you feel better. I mean it specifically, psychologically, backed by actual research into how certain kinds of minds work. Because what forgetting names usually signals is not a weak memory or a lack of care. It signals something about the way your brain has decided to prioritize the world. And once you understand what that actually means, I think you are going to see this completely differently. Let us get into it. 1. Your brain is keeping what matters and releasing what does not. Here is something worth sitting with for a second. You forgot their name, but did you forget them? Probably not. You remember they were going through something hard at work. You remember they had a dry sense of humor that caught you off guard. You remember the specific face they made when they said something they found ridiculous. You remember the feeling of talking to them. What you lost was one word, a label, a sound someone decided to attach to them before they were old enough to have a personality. There is actually a name for this in psychology, semantic memory, and what researchers found is almost too on the nose. Our brains are literally wired to hold on to meaning and quietly release everything else. Names, numbers, isolated facts with no emotional context. Gone. Not because your memory is broken, because your brain made a judgment call about what was worth keeping. You did not forget their name because you did not care. You forgot it because you were too busy actually knowing them. 2. You were present, actually present, and that costs something. This one surprised me when I first came across it. People who are genuinely good at remembering names, and I mean the ones who do it effortlessly, not the ones using tricks, tend to do something very specific in the first moments of meeting someone. They encode, internally. They repeat the name in their head, create a little association, sometimes picture it written down. It is almost a background filing process running parallel to the conversation. And it works. But here is what nobody mentions. That process pulls a portion of your attention inward, away from the person, toward the task of storage. Psychology shows that people who score high on present moment awareness and genuine listening tend to perform worse on immediate recall for surface level details. Not because they are less intelligent, because their attention is pointed outward at the actual human being in front of them, rather than inward at the mental filing cabinet. So if you forget names easily, there is a real possibility that in those first moments of meeting someone, you were just completely there, listening, reading the room, already responding to what they were actually saying, rather than mentally rehearsing their name like a vocabulary word. You chose the person over the label. You just did not realize that is what you were doing. 3. Your mind thinks in pictures and feelings, not lists. Okay, tell me if this sounds familiar. You understand something deeply, genuinely, fully understand it. But when someone asks you to explain it, the specific word or term floats just out of reach. You know the concept, the label escapes you. Or you remember an entire conversation as a feeling, a texture, a whole scene. But if someone asked you to list what was said in order, you would struggle. That is a conceptual mind. A mind that processes in wholes rather than parts, in meaning rather than data points. Research indicates that this kind of thinking style, abstract, pattern-oriented, emotionally anchored, tends to be less efficient at storing isolated facts without context. Names are exactly that, isolated, contextless on their own, so they slip, not because the mind is weak, because it is oriented towards something else entirely. And that same cognitive style, the one that loses the name, is also the one that tends to see the connection nobody else in the room noticed. That finds the insight buried underneath the obvious, that understands people not by cataloging them, but by feeling the shape of who they are. The trade-off is real, but it is a trade-off, not a deficiency. 4. Your nervous system is more relaxed than you realize. This one is going to sound backwards. Stay with me. Psychology shows that one of the reasons some people are exceptionally good at remembering names is social vigilance, a nervous system that is quietly on alert during social interactions, carefully tracking and encoding details as a form of self-protection. The anxious mind remembers names in part because it is scanning, filing, preparing. If your mind is not doing that, if it is relaxed enough to simply be present without running a background threat assessment, that is not carelessness. That is a relatively open, secure social orientation. You are not guarded. You are not performing. You walked into the conversation without armor on. The irony is this: the very quality that makes people feel genuinely at ease around you, that warmth, that lack of agenda, may be directly contributing to the name forgetting. Your nervous system was calm enough to let the unimportant things go, which means the thing you are most embarrassed about is sitting right next to one of your best qualities. They are almost the same thing. 5. You do not box people in the moment you meet them. There is something quietly profound in this one, and I want to say it carefully. Names are labels, and labels are how we categorize people, quickly, efficiently, in the first few seconds. It is a mental shortcut, useful, but also limiting. Research in social psychology suggests that people who are less automatic about this categorization process tend to perceive others in more individualized, complex ways. They are slower to form fixed impressions, more genuinely open to who a person actually turns out to be. When you forget a name, that person stays slightly unboxed in your mind. Their identity remains defined by what you actually experience of them, not by the label you attached in the first 30 seconds of knowing them. That is not a flaw in how you see people. That might actually be the most human way to see them. 6. Your memory runs on feeling, not obligation. Ask yourself this honestly. Are there names you never forget? People you met once, briefly, but their name stuck immediately and has never left. Think about why. Chances are they made you feel something. Something real. Warmth, excitement, that specific kind of recognition when you meet someone who just gets it. Your brain tagged that experience as significant and held on tight. Psychology shows that emotional encoding is one of the most powerful memory mechanisms we have. When something carries genuine feeling, the brain marks it for retention. When it does not, the brain quietly releases it. Your memory is not random. It is honest. It keeps what actually registered and lets go of what did not. So if you remember the names of people who genuinely moved you and forget everyone you briefly met at a crowded work event, that is not inconsistency. That is your brain being truthful about what mattered, and that is not something to fix. You have probably apologized for this more times than you can count, blanked on a name while the other person clearly remembered yours, felt that flush of embarrassment, and heard that little internal voice say, "Seriously, what is wrong with you?" Nothing. Nothing was ever wrong with you. You were paying attention to what your brain decided mattered. You were present when other people were filing. You were feeling when other people were cataloging. And in a world that measures memory by the least interesting thing it can store, a label, a sound, a word assigned before anyone knew who that person would become, your kind of mind was always going to look like it was failing at something it was never actually trying to do. You were not built for labels. You were built for people. And there is a version of the world, the real one, underneath all the small talk and name tags, where that is exactly the right way to be. If this kind of honest, specific look at how your mind actually works speaks to you, subscribe to this channel. Every week we take the things you were quietly told were weaknesses and show you what they actually are. Share this with someone in your life who always forgets names. They need to hear this today. And tell me in the comments, is there one person whose name you have never once forgotten, no matter how long it has been? Tell me about them. I will see you in the next one.